Executive Committee members, if you could take your seats, we're going to begin in just a moment. Still have a few folks straggling in here. Okay. Members, I hereby call this meeting of the DNC Executive Committee to order. As we begin, if you could please rise if you are able to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to ask Secretary Ray to lead us in the determination of the quorum.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Democrats. Good morning. Come on, we can do a little bit. Good morning, Democrats. Good morning. We've had a great meeting so far in Los Angeles, and I'm excited for today's both. We've got trainings going on next door, our executive committee today, some of our councils after this as well. But as we can look around the room and we see here, we do indeed, Mr. Chair, have a quorum of members present.
Thank you, Secretary Ray. I also want to say before we move on in our agenda that, as you know, I thought that it was very important that all of our meetings were accessible to the general public and to others. And so we continue to make sure that our meetings are live streamed, all of our meetings, including this meeting. And I want to thank the members and viewers who are joining us via live stream today. I also want to acknowledge our fantastic parliamentarian, Helen McFadden, and the whole DNC team who have been working tirelessly to organize this week's meetings. Thank you, Helen. Thank you to Sham. Thank you to the rest of the team. I really appreciate it. So, look, at this point, I want to bring up a terrific friend, Supervisor Hilda Solis. Now, look, I could tell you about all the incredible roles that she's ever held over her career, or about how she's been dedicated her entire life to public service. But I'm just so happy that I get to introduce my friend, a real friend, someone that I've spent time with here in LA, around the country. She's done so much important work for this nation, both, of course, as a member of Congress, Secretary of Labor under President Obama, coming home to her community here and serving as a county supervisor, now the chair of the board, and of course, currently running for Congress. She is a great, great friend of this party and a great friend to Angelenos and Californians and a good friend of mine. Please welcome Supervisor Hilda Solis.
Thank you. Buenos dias. Good morning and welcome to Los Angeles County, everyone. One of the largest counties here in the United States. 10 million people reside here, and I will say that LA County alone worked really hard to pass Proposition 50, and we took it across the finish line with an overwhelming, I want to say, more than 70%. So give yourselves a round of applause, and to everybody, and especially to Ken Martin, our DNC chair, who I've just grown to admire and just think so highly of all the things, his commitments and his promises that he's already kept. This is his 1-year anniversary, so let's give him a big applause. This is great. We have great news. He's been all over our country, but I want to say that he's a special friend and he's a fighter. He himself is a warrior, and there's nothing wrong with saying that, but it is important for us to understand that he's ready to take up the fight every single day, and I've seen him in action. And I've seen the potential of our party and how he's infused his commitment to help stand up all of our state parties across this country. And that isn't an easy task to do when you just came out of an election where Democrats, I hate to say it, we got a shellacking last year. But this time, the dynamic has changed. We're seeing key races that we've never imagined that we could take over. And all of this started to happen, I want to say, in November. And a lot of good things happened here in California. And I'm glad that our legislature, our congressional members, and I know Congressman Jimmy Gomez is going to hopefully join us later. But the fact of the matter is, it's about all of us working together. So many people from outside California helped us also get Prop 50 where it was and needed. And I think we all learned from that it isn't about just one state or one delegation, but it's about all of us working together to keep our eye on the ball. And the eye on the ball is taking back the House and the Senate and the White House, and making sure that we don't forget about all the local government officials as well. City councils, school board, water boards, all of that. And that's something that Ken has talked about time and time again. And just to give you an idea, and he's been talking about this, I think, at every caucus meeting so far that I have heard him. And he reminds us that Democrats, we had double-digit victories in gubernatorial races in New Jersey, in Virginia. And if you're here, you should clap. You're representing those states. It's important, as we know, New York City, that was incredible. California. And what I want to underscore here, too, is how important it was for some of our, how could I say, disenfranchised voters who kind of walked the other way, came back home. And many of them were Latinos, African American, women, and young people. And that's something to be proud of, because that's what we have to continually support. In New Jersey, we also slashed Trump's 2024 gains, and we picked up more support from African Americans and Asian voters. Democrats also won a majority of independent voters, including a 14-point swing from 2021 in Virginia. Some of us know very well what Virginia looks like, but it is changing. In New Jersey, Mickey Sherrill won the independent vote by 13 points. Amazing. Virginia, we won over young voters 18 to 29 years of age with a 41-point margin. When did we ever see that? Come on, you guys. We got to give it up to the Democrats. People, wake up. Spanberger won, the biggest Democrats in decades. Democrats are also flipping seats and winning, as you know, in Republican strongholds. Alicia Johnson, Peter Hubbard, candidates for the Georgia Public Service Commission, flipped 17 Trump counties to become the first non-federal statewide Democrats elected in 20 years. Oh my God. And we're going to keep going. Democrats in Virginia flipped 13 state house seats to expand their majority. Democrats swept every county seat in Bucks County, including electing the first Democratic district attorney. Heading into the midterms, we have to continue building on this momentum. And the DNC has shown that we can get the job done. In 2025, the DNC conducted the largest off-year organizing blitz ever across New Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania, California. And just as a couple of factoids, trained over 17,000 volunteers, knocked on over 2.5 million doors, made over 8.5 million phone calls, and sent over 17 million texts. And in Maine, the DNC made over 117,000 calls against question 1, which would have undermined absentee balloting and voting. In Pennsylvania, the DNC drove voter protections, including reaching out to thousands of voters to cure their mail-in ballots for their counts. All these things take a lot of time, effort, and money. And they take a lot of, how could I say, grease. That means walking, squeezing, pushing, cajoling, influencing, making sure that every Democrat and every other person that wants to hear and be heard, that we are out there with them. The DNC is now delivering more than $1 million to state parties every single month. Did you guys know that? That is amazing. He kept his promises. In Pennsylvania, where Democrats retained 3 state Supreme Court justices, the DNC invested over $175,000. In New Jersey and Virginia, the DNC invested over $3.2 million there to hire organizers and to put boots on the ground. In Mississippi, Democrats broke the Republican supermajority, and the DNC invested an additional $100,000 to support paid programming and organizing. These are real things, tangible things that win races. And it is about making sure that our states are covered, and Ken has made that commitment. But I will also note that there are some very damaging things that have been happening through this administration, Trump's administration, not ours, in my opinion. And that is by terrorizing our neighborhoods, putting people in detention, what I would call concentration camps, so to speak, and then also removing people and sending them to other countries. These are all violations of our civil rights, our human rights, and our civil rights. And we need to keep, how could I say, the pedal on the gas to make sure that we stop that. But more importantly, Americans are also suffering from the fact that this president wants to take away food on the table for families who are already starving, hungry, and their parents may not even have a good paying job. And we're seeing that happen here in California with over, I would say, 1.5 million people who are impacted right now in the county of Los Angeles. We have had to put together our own funding to help provide food on the table for people who, through no fault of their own, don't have decent nutritional meals. And we have to fight back. That is what's going to energize, I think, our country. We can't afford to let the Affordable Care Act go away. And 22 million people. And that's the message that we have to make. And I know that our chairman is going to do everything in his power, and we as a body have to do more to make sure that people don't forget that hard-fought war to get that passed. And how many times the Republicans want to try to take that away. We can't allow them to do that. More work needs to be done, and we need to stand together. And I'm so honored and pleased to be here to sit alongside my friend, my amigo, my compadre, in Spanish as we say that, and that's Ken. And I want to underscore, he's already been out here this last year, starting in January, right after the fires. He called, he said, Hilda, can you help put together a roundtable out in Pasadena, neighboring Altadena? He came out and met with people who lost their homes and their businesses. And that wasn't the first time. He came out again, and he talked to people that were impacted by the raids recently in East Los Angeles. And then he came out again before Proposition 50, and he helped to mobilize. And he didn't just stay in LA County. He went all around and talked to everybody. This is a working chairman who really cares and understands grassroots. And I strongly support everything he's doing and all the people that are behind him. But we need to really get with him and also open up our hearts and our pocketbooks to support this party. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Hilda. Thank you, Supervisor Solis, for your great words and your support. With that, I'm going to change the agenda a little bit because we are joined by another terrific leader here in LA County, and I'd like for him to address us. I'm excited to introduce Congressman Jimmy Gomez, who represents Los Angeles. Congressman Gomez proudly represents California's 34th congressional district, one of the country's most diverse and culturally rich districts. He has served in Congress since 2017. And in Congress, Congressman Gomez serves on the House Ways and Means Committee and serves as a deputy whip for policy for the Democratic Caucus and a deputy whip for the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Throughout his career, Congressman Gomez has championed issues such as health care access, paid family leave, and of course, affordable housing. He is a true leader. He's been a great friend. Please welcome Congressman Jimmy Gomez.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually really proud to be here with all of you today. I represent this area in Congress, so I know you're all enjoying the weather if you're coming from anywhere outside of California. But before I was ever a member of Congress, I was a union organizer. That's right. And I like to come to this with a little bit of humility because what my first political job, I would say, it was an internship. It was at the DNC in the summer of 2002. So that's kind of aging me a little bit. I worked in the political department, and I was working with some of the political regional folks. And my job was to write the briefing memos for Chairman McAuliffe when he would go out to all the different states. So I had to research every state that he would visit. And that was, one, an education. Two, gave me an appreciation of the issues and the diversity of the Democratic Party, and understanding that we might not all live in the same spot, obviously. We might come from different backgrounds, but we all care about the working class. How do we help people succeed and thrive? And then also, I learned back then, because this was part of my job, back then when we sent checks out to the state parties, I had to put them in the envelope and drop them in the mail. So when I was when I saw a check for $50,000, that was the most money I ever saw in my life. But it shows what the party is meant to do. It's meant to support the states, their organizing efforts, their political efforts, making sure that we're stronger as a whole and stronger in its individual pieces. But one of the things I learned as a member as an intern, but also as a political organizer for AFSCME International, then as a union organizer for UNAC, it's a nurses union here in California, is that I traveled to Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, California, Washington, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Puerto Rico. That democracy is not necessarily created equal in the United States of America. And we are fighting every single day so that everybody has an opportunity to make their voices heard, to fight for their families, and to make sure that in the end, things get a little bit better. And you might look at me and go, you represent one of the bluest districts in the entire country. 8% Republican voter registration in my district, 8%. But I actually grew up out in Riverside, California, during a time where Reagan was dominant. It was almost top to bottom Republican in every level of government. And if you told anybody you're a Democrat, they kind of like, it was like rooting for the Cleveland Browns. And I can say that because my wife is from Akron, Ohio. So, and she wants my son, who's 3 years old, to be a Browns fan. I said, we're supposed to break generational trauma, not keep it going. So one of the things I want to emphasize is that I understand that we come from different places, and it might seem that there's a lot of differences. But one of the main difference, one of the things that brings us together is how do we bring people into the fold? How do we make people say, hey, that Democratic Party represents me. It represents my desires. It represents my family. It represents what we can become. And that's the challenge, right, as a big national, big tent party. And one of the things I've been trying to stress from the beginning of this year is that no matter our differences on the issues, we have one agenda. We got to stop Donald Trump, and we need to make sure that the working class is put at the forefront of the American experiment. And during this time, I realized early on that, our base was depressed, right? They were glum. And I've experienced that because, growing up as a Democrat in Riverside, California, I experienced that. And one of the things I always told people, nobody likes to root for a team that loses. Nobody likes to cheer on the boxer that says no mas, right? They want to see somebody that puts up a fight. Doesn't matter if you're going to lose every single round, you better be out there slugging away. And that's why it's important to talk to the states that are not blue states, right? That the ones that are in red states, those parties are the ones that are know how to take a beating, no offense, but get up and keep going. That's what blue states can learn from the red states. Because it's easy in a blue state to say, hey, I'm a Democrat because everybody else is a Democrat. But when the odds are against you and you show up and fight time and time again, you encourage everybody to else have that courage. So I want to just say thank you. Show up and fight. And that's what we started to do in Congress. I said we got to show up and fight. We got to stall the Republican agenda, stop the Republican agenda, and organize. Show up and fight tells people that there's still life in you. Stall the Republican agenda or stop it is because it gives the American people time to process what is going on. So when the fight that we won in November was actually, the stage was set for those victories that 10 months prior. Because and it started, a lot of it was at the federal level, because we were fighting the one big beautiful bill every step of the way. We did things that never had been done before. In the Ways and Means Committee, which I'm on, the first time ever where we had a hearing that went almost 24 hours. First time ever. My friend Stephen Horsford and I were at the bottom of the dais because even though we've been there a number of years, we wanted to introduce amendment after amendment. And I was reminded from the last time the Republicans did their tax bill, Democrats only introduced 6 amendments that time, 6. I had 21 amendments on my own. Horsford had 11 amendments on his own. So all of a sudden, I would say the more experienced members were like, we can't let these young whippersnappers outdo us. So they, and on Ways and Means, I am still considered young. So what you saw is that the next day, overnight at 3 a.m., the reporters and the press started saying, what's going on in Ways and Means? So then all of a sudden the attention, we got the attention. Same thing in Energy and Commerce. They went over actually almost 30 hours. And then we had a chance to mark up the one big beautiful bill in rules. Well, they thought they would be smart and they would start at 1 a.m. Well, we had over 100 Democrats testify and present amendments to the Rules Committee, and that went almost 24 hours. And so that's the kind of fight the American people want to see. But what it does, that fight, what it does, and it's stalling, it allows the American people to focus. It allows them to understand what's at stake. That the Republicans were going to cut $200 billion out of SNAP, cut almost $1 trillion out of Medicaid. It was creating the largest transfer of wealth in the history of our country, from the working class to the rich and the ultra wealthy and the largest corporations. That's what they all of a sudden realized. And that the big tax cuts were actually going to increase taxes on people making $30,000 or less. That's the priorities of the Republicans. So a lot of the victories that occurred is because we were able to make the American people focus on what was occurring in DC. But without the organizing, the next thing is organize, organize, organize. As a leader of the Democrats for a long time says, don't complain, organize. I think Madam Speaker Pelosi would always say that. You organize, you organize, you organize. And that's what we started in my district. I started holding organizing town halls to, one, listen, but then say, when people wanted to ask, what's the plan? Well, here's the plan. We're going to talk to the people who don't read our newspapers, listen to our podcasts, or watch MSNBC. We're going to go into the red districts and the red states in order to tell people how they're getting screwed over by the Republicans and the billionaire establishment. And we did that over and over and over again. I did a town hall. I did 4 town halls in Representative Valadeo's district, who has 67% of his district on Medicaid. I went into North Carolina. I did one at Rep. Rouser's district, North Carolina. He hasn't had a town hall since 2017. 2017. So, and then you have that with other members as well, going into these red states, getting that attention and making sure that people know what the Republicans are doing. And that's what the organizing is about. Without organizing, without actually talking to all the voters, we're never going to win back our country. And that's where the DNC, that's where all of you come in, is making sure that we keep that up. That takes money, that takes communications, that takes resources, and it takes effort. So this is not an easy task, but I think with what the chairman has done, what the executive board has done, we're not only going to win in 2026, but we're going to set the stage for being able to constrain. I think that it's going to be a more belligerent, aggressive Donald Trump in 2027 and 2028. If people think this gets easier, no way. Donald Trump never says he's wrong, never backs down, never capitulates. He goes attacks, attacks, attacks. And we have to be mentally prepared, not just for next year, but for the 2 years after that, because it's going to get rough. It's going to get real rough. I think you all know that. If you live in a red state, you get that. You understand that instinctually because you live it every single day. But we're here to say that we got your back, that we're going to be there every step of the way. We're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. You need us to come out and go to walk some doors, stand on some picket lines, whatever you need, we will be there. But I know that without the DNC kind of coordinating it, it becomes a lot more difficult. So the chairman has been doing a great job investing those resources, making sure that there's organizers on the ground, but also coming with a respect for all of you and the parties that you all represent. So and the factions and the coalition. And you know what? God bless you for everything you do. So keep it up. I'm here, but I know the best days are still ahead of us, and I'm proud, as I was when I registered at 18, to call myself a Democrat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, as you know, we had to cut our meeting short back in August because of the tragic shooting at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis. Today, I'm going to keep my remarks extraordinarily brief because I want to give as much time as possible to these critical conversations that we weren't able to have during the last meeting. I know we have a lot of business in front of us, and I'm eager to get to it. But let me just say, look, you heard me say it all throughout this week. We've had a big year. The comeback is on, and it's because of the work of the people in this room, and frankly, the work of people watching throughout this country and millions of Democrats throughout the country who did not give up. You heard the congressman say it. They got themselves off the mat, they got back in the fight, and they kept organizing. They understood the assignment. In the face of fascism, in the face of tyranny, in the face of so many unprecedented actions by this administration, some which many of us have never seen in our lifetime, now was not the time to give in. Now was not the time to sit down, hang our head, woe is me. But to dust yourself off, get back up, get into the fight, and that's why we're winning across the country. I think it's critical to note that these wins were historic for the Democratic Party. In some of the reddest counties in the country, they're electing Democrats for the first time ever. And while we focus on the big five, what happened in California, what happened in New Jersey, Virginia, New York, and Pennsylvania, they're all terrific victories worth celebrating. But as I look to our future, what gives me the most hope is what's happening in those races that people didn't hear about. Those deep down ballot races that show that there is so much disgust out there right now with what this administration is doing, that we're electing Democrats throughout the nation, and there is so much hope with what Democratic candidates are offering in terms of a vision focused on their lives, their communities, that they're voting with Democrats. And I never thought I would agree, ever, with the Republican Party chair. But just the other day, he said, it's a certainty that the Republicans are going to lose in 2026. I agree with them. But I will say this, I'm confident we're going to win in 26, but I'm not complacent. Our job as leaders of our party, all of you around this table and the others at this meeting here, is to not become complacent, not to rest on your laurels, not to rest on past precedent that suggests that the party out of power will always win the midterm elections. No, none of that is guaranteed. It's only possible if we're willing to work for it. I know this sounds very cocky and it's a very un-Minnesota thing to say, but there's a reason I did not lose a single statewide election in Minnesota. And it's because we didn't believe the hype. We didn't believe a poll that showed us up was going to guarantee that we were going to win, any more that we believed a poll that we were down was a guarantee that we were going to lose. We knew if we kept organizing, getting out there, talking to voters through year-round organizing and building trust with people in our party and people even not in our party, that we could put ourselves in the best possible position to win. And that's what I ask of all of you today, is to celebrate those victories, truly historic, but then get back to work and recognize that in just 324 days, we've got an amazing opportunity to put a check on this guy's power and to position ourselves for big wins, both in 26, 28, and beyond. And so thank you again for your commitment. Thank you, Democrats, for all you're doing. Thank you for continuing to lean into this work and for fighting and for organizing. So with that, I want to move on now to our committee reports, and we're going to start with the Rules and Bylaws Committee. And I apologize greatly because I cannot see you guys, and I hope you can see us. So we're going to begin with our Rules and Bylaws Committee, Jim Roosevelt and Mignon Moore.
Well, the important thing is we hear you, Mr. Chairman, so thank you. Hello, Executive Committee members, and thank you, Chairman Martin, for all the hard work that you're doing for this party. I know as a person that have worked in this party for a long time, the thing that goes unnoticed is the work that you do tirelessly, so thank you very much for all you're doing. To recap yesterday's general session, the full membership received and approved a report following our meeting on Thursday, December 11th. The report included an amendment to the charter along with standing rules to govern our general sessions. Looking ahead, pursuant to the resolution adopted by the committee on October 27, 2025, the Rules and Bylaws Committee will begin a thorough review of the pre-window period of the 2028 Democratic presidential nominating process. Jim?
Thank you, Mignon, and thank you, Chair Martin. To conduct the review of the pre-window, sometimes known as the early states, the RBC issued a request for proposals, an RFP, to all Democratic state parties interested in applying to hold their 2028 presidential nominating contest before the opening of the window on March 7, 2028. Responses to the RFP must be received by January 16, 2026 at 5 p.m. Excuse me, January 6th.
16th, 2025.
26, right? 25
Yeah,
gone already.
yeah,
So must be received by January 16, 2025 at 5 p.m. These responses will be shared with members of the Rules and Bylaws Committee for review ahead of our upcoming meeting on Saturday, January 31st. During this, and that's a meeting of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, not all of you. Okay. During this January meeting, the RBC will vote on which states to invite to make presentations in person to the committee. In the meetings that follow, we will begin the process for adopting the 2028 call to convention and delegate selection rules. We look forward to sharing more updates with you throughout this process.
Thank you, co-chairs Moore and Roosevelt, for your leadership. Thank you for the report. I now would like to welcome our Budget Oversight and Review Committee co-chair, Chris Lowe, to provide the budget and finance report. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Martin, and thanks for all the work that you are doing. My co-chair, Doris Kraus-Mays, is unable to be here today, so I'm pleased to provide the first report of the newly renamed Budget Oversight and Review Committee to the DNC Executive Committee. At the main body yesterday, you heard from me about the work our committee did at our meeting on Thursday. So our report today is more of a look ahead as to what is to come. As you all know, the bylaw amendments, which we passed in August, expanded the budget oversight responsibilities of the committee. These give the committee the opportunity to review and comment on a draft budget that will be put forward by the chair, and then, going forward, to compare the actual outcomes versus the budget on a quarterly basis. We have worked with the chair and staff to create a schedule which will accommodate this. The chair will present a budget which will cover a 12-month period from July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027, and we will move to this mid-year to mid-year budgeting process. This will be reviewed by the committee at a meeting which will be held in January or February in 2026. We'll be able to provide comments which will be filtered back to the chair and staff. And thereafter, the budget will be proposed at the executive committee meetings and DNC meetings in New Orleans in April. After that, we've developed a schedule of meetings for the Budget Oversight and Review Committee through the rest of the year, which will coincide with the quarterly reporting, and we'll be able to fill the second part of our mandate. The other comment I'd make is that at our meeting earlier this week, we did receive updates from staff about the DNC's efforts to combat scam packs and their predatory practices, which do erode the faith of the real people who place their trust in us and help fund our party and campaigns. I think the whole of the party recognizes this is a very serious problem, and the work that the team is doing is really essential to keeping the entire Democratic campaign ecosystem healthy. With that, Mr. Chair, I thank you for your support of this committee and our new budget process, and I look forward to reporting back to the Executive Committee in April. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Chris, to Doris, the rest of the committee for their work. Finally, we're going to hear from the co-chairs of the Resolution Committee, Ron Harris and Yoli Bejarano. I see Chair Bejarano here, and she will give the report. Thank you, Yoli.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Good morning, Executive Committee. My co-chair, Ron Harris, is not able to be here with us this morning, but he sends his regards. The Resolutions Committee met Thursday, December 11th to consider the 41 resolutions sent to DNC members in the Secretary's 7-day mailing. Each of the resolutions were considered by the Resolutions Committee, and sponsors were recognized and heard. 26 message and 15 commemorative resolutions were overwhelmingly supported and recommended by the committee for approval and were approved by the DNC. On behalf of the committee, I want to express our appreciation to the Resolutions Committee members for their service, for DNC members who submitted the resolutions, and the amazing DNC staff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Yoli. Thank you to the Credentials Committee. At this point, we are going to hear from our officers, and we're going to do it in alphabetical order. Now, sadly, our Treasurer, Virginia McGregor, and our National Finance Chair, Chris Corge, were not able to attend the meeting today, so we're going to hear from them at a future meeting. But we're going to start our officer reports with our Associate Chair, Stuart Applebaum.
Good morning, everybody. I have to tell you that as somebody who comes out of the labor movement, I'm especially thrilled to have been here with all of you these last few days, because the Democratic Party is the natural home for working people. Yet when he ran for office, Donald Trump tried to tell working people that he was the one who cared about them, that he shared their concerns, and that he was their friend. But let me ask you this. Would a friend issue executive orders that stripped collective bargaining rights from more than 1 million federal workers? I don't think so. Would a friend make appointments to the National Labor Relations Board that shift the balance sharply towards employers, making it harder for workers to organize and to advocate for safe workplaces? I don't think so. And would a friend reduce the number of OSHA inspectors who are supposed to keep workplaces safe and delay or roll back key safety rules? No. And would a friend push out tens of thousands of federal employees, affecting services that all Americans depend on? Do you think so? No. All of this adds up. When jobs become less stable, when wages fall, and when protections weaken, working families feel the pressure, whether they're federal workers, private sector workers, or folks just trying to get by. That's why Democrats must continue to demonstrate to working people that the issues confronting them are the issues we as Democrats are committed to tackling and solving. We know that a strong labor movement means a strong middle class. Our party needs to stand with labor and never let voters forget that the Democratic Party is the party that puts working people first. And ASDC Chair Jane Klebb and I will be working together, establishing and reinvigorating labor councils at the state party level to make sure that the concerns of working people are front and center throughout the party, not just at the national level, but everywhere in the country. And like so many of you, I'm going to be leaving this meeting determined and encouraged and energized, knowing that there is a path forward for a brighter future for working people and for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Next up is the great Congresswoman from the state of Ohio, former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, all-around great leader in that Democratic conference. Please welcome Associate Chair Joyce Beatty.
Thank you so much to our chairman. And let me just say to you, Chair Martin, thank you, not because of this appointment, but for the work that you do and the work that we don't always brag about or hear. So I'm going to take 10 seconds of my time to publicly say to you, thank you for remembering the small donors as well as the large donors. Thank you for having the courage to change this platform so more voices could be heard. And in this role as a DNC vice chair, my focus has been on aligning House Democrats, candidates, and the party infrastructure around a single goal. And we heard it from you, Madam Secretary, as I still like to call you, soon to be colleague, and also from my colleague, Congressman Gomez, that our goal is to make sure we take back the House, and along with that, the Senate, and yes, the White House. So over the past quarter, I have convened and participated in direct coordination with leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic members of Congress, and national partners to ensure that the message discipline, the candidate support, and the turnout alignment across all battlegrounds and districts. Let me just tell you, through GOTV coordination calls, national partner engagements, we're syncing congressional voices with grassroots organizations to maximize turnout in swing districts and states. Over the last quarter, I've had the opportunity to work with women. We have EDW, Elect Democratic Women. Our mission is in direct alignment with the DNC. I was so proud when our Vice Chair, Raina Walters Morgan, joined me along with, where is Artie? Along with Artie in Chicago as we traveled. As a result of that, another quiet secret, 5 women in the United States Congress formed Elect Democratic Women, and I am proud to say to be one of those founders. We have raised $40 million, supported 200 women, and elected over 90 women in our short existence. Lastly, let me share, and I won't go through a lot because we've already heard about the candidates, but information is powerful. We have 10 frontline women. We have a total of 30-some people on the front line. We are playing in open seats. We are raising money. And I can tell you, one of my best investments, along with EDW, was for Mikey Sherrill and Abigail. We were able to have 2 women from our Congress be in line to be the next governor in Virginia and New Jersey. We also are proud of what just happened in Florida, electing for the first time in almost 4 decades a mayor, a Democratic mayor. And did I say she was a female? So let me just add that. Right now, the Republicans hold 219 seats, while the Democrats hold 214 seats. That is a 5-seat majority. Democrats need to flip a minimum of 6 seats, hold their current 214 seats to win back the majority in 2026. We have 26 Democrat frontliners, 10 of them are women. We have 35 seats on the list of seats to watch and that are in play. And then lastly, as of December the 11th, there are 172 potential state ballot measures, 151 initiated ballot measures, and 40 referred to ballot initiatives. So we have a lot of work to do. But because of this platform, Chair Martin, we are able to play in so many different arenas. Labor, as you said. Lastly, I had the opportunity to be with Malcolm Kenyatta and labor executive Hassan Solomon, the International Association of Machinists, on a collective PAC call. So we are reaching across all levels of our democratic platform. We are serious. We know the injustices by this current president, and we know an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Thank you for allowing me to serve.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Next up is the Vice Chair from the great state of Nevada, Artie Blanca.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, sisters, brothers, and siblings. I am so happy. I've been thinking about how this year has gone. In the beginning, after we were elected, I had great conversations, held some town halls in Virginia early on. I want to talk about these races in a way that we need to reflect on how we are organizing this party back, right? And gonna make the assignment true for 2026. While on the road, I met some amazing Latino leaders in Virginia, leaders that have come together to not only organize themselves, but organize with the election and the candidates and the coordinated campaign. I met a young woman, Jasmine Chavez, who was working hard for the Spanberger campaign and with the Latino Coalition. I met in New Jersey, Vera Liz Santana, who was just honored for being a Latina rising star in the campaign work under the leadership of Patricia Campos in New Jersey, also a union sister that was part of Cheryl campaign efforts. We need to make real organizing decisions that are data driven. When I look at the districts that are currently on the table, that are part of our assignment for next year, some of these districts, the Latino voters will make the difference. But it's not just the number of the voters that are in that district. We need to understand who they are. When in some of these districts, 37% of these voters are requesting Spanish language ballots. This is information that we need to continue to use. The last thing I will end on is that we were able to have, with the leadership from our Western Region Chair, a session in Nevada. And one of the sessions we wanted to do was around deep canvassing. People get confused thinking, oh, deep canvassing, it's a little hard, it takes time. You know what deep canvassing is? It's a practice on listening. Listening to the voters and the needs of the people and working households that we need to bring back home, that we are bringing back home. So, Mr. Chairman, I am so excited to continue to be part of this leadership team, to move us into the direction, and to all the chairs and organizers of the DNC, let's kick some butt and take back these branches of government to the people.
Thank you, Artie. Thank you, Vice Chair Blanco. Next up is our Vice Chair from the great state of Washington, Shasti Conrad.
Good morning, Executive Committee. Hello. I hope that the West Coast, Best Coast treated you all very well. And I hope that it is less than 6 years before we host another DNC meeting back on the West Coast. And I also just want to say that I earlier this week hosted a reception alongside One Fair Wage, where we mixed messaging with some comedy and some fun, and I hope those who were able to attend had a good time. That was really important to me. It's also important to me to acknowledge that while I have been here in this beautiful, gorgeous weather this week, in my home state of Washington, there is horrific flooding that has been happening. Many counties in Washington state have had to evacuate. We were not sure if the federal government would provide any sort of disaster relief, and our governor just got a call from Kristi Noem last night that they will provide some. But it is a reminder of how important it is to build within our states at every single level of government, and also try to work when we can with the federal government to protect our people. Last got together in August. I have proudly represented this community across the country, traveled to New Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania, where we hosted Asian American Pacific Islander roundtables with our community to uplift the folks on the ground and their experiences and get them deeply connected into the campaigns that were happening there. Very proud of the work that happened to recognize our Asian American community as valuable members of this coalition and this Democratic Party. Also traveled as many places as I could and tried to spend time here in the Western region to uplift the work that's happening out here. And then also I just wanted to share a personal experience since I saw you all in August. In September, I had a scary experience where I was detained by ICE while I was traveling back from being outside of the country. It only lasted about 10, 20 minutes, but in that moment, I definitely felt the fragility of democracy while I was being screamed at by men who were questioning me about why I was traveling alone, who I worked for, what I was doing. They took my passport. I definitely felt like I might not ever see this community again, and that was terrifying. It reminded me of the importance of home and how much we have to continue to work to uphold it. As someone with all the privilege in the world, that fear is moving through so many of our communities, and we have to continue to fight for them. And again, it just reminded me of just my gratitude to be a member of this community, to serve as your vice chair, and I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Shasti. Next up is our vice chairs from the great state of Pennsylvania, Malcolm Kenyatta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've spent the last couple of days in this morning talking about our successes that we've had, and we should. It's important to reflect on our work. But I do want us to just think about the future and the very near future. On Monday, December 15th, Americans who are going to be making decisions about whether or not they can afford 114% on average increase in the cost of their health care. Folks, just next week are going to have to decide whether or not they're going to let their health care lapse, have no coverage for their prescriptions, whether or not they're going to use the emergency room as their primary care, because this administration does not give a damn about what is happening to people all across this country. And folks who have looked at this, folks much smarter than me, have said about 4 million Americans are going to lose health care. And that is a reminder for all of us about what is actually at stake in this. I love being a Democrat. I love seeing us win. But the main thing is very simple. I know for all of us that this does not have to happen. It shouldn't be happening, but it is going to happen. It is going to happen. And so when we leave here, I hope all of us are thinking about it, that we have the righteous indignation and rage that a bunch of billionaires who have the greatest health care in the world are sitting, having shrimp cocktail, watching fire twirlers and doing whatever the hell else they're doing at Mar-a-Lago. And people are going to die. Not hypothetically, people are going to die. And so I leave this meeting incredibly excited about the leadership of this team around this table, led by our incredible leader, Kim Martin, excited about our candidates who stepped up, who changed the tide in the direction, but also with very clear-eyed understanding about what is about to happen in this country. And after so much progress that we've made on healthcare, a lot of this still kind of feels hypothetical because we've seen so much progress on lowering costs, so much progress on getting more people covered. But Monday is going to reverse these trends in ways that will be irreparable for so many Americans. And it is a shame. It is a shame that this is being allowed in this country. And it is a shame that we do not have a president that gives one single solitary fuck about the millions of Americans who are going to have nothing in just a couple of days. And so I hope that we all leave here talking about that and being very clear about why this is happening, because I know how Congresswoman Beatty voted. I know how Democrats across this country voted to extend the subsidies so that people could afford their health care. But I also know how Republicans have voted, and the fact that they do not care about what is going to happen across this country. And I know that I, for one, along with all of you, are going to be going across this country reminding the American people of that important fact, reminding the American people of what happens when we have corrupt, callous, incompetent leadership in the White House, the State House, the U.S. Congress, and anywhere else. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I just want us to all just be thinking about that as we leave here. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. And thank you for always centering us in our why and what this is really about. And we've all said this, and you've heard a lot this week, that we're not here just to win elections for an election's sake, to pat ourselves on the back, but there are real consequences. And thank you for articulating what is coming down the pike because of this administration. We have to continue to remind ourselves all the time why we do this work. So thank you, Malcolm. Next up is our ASDC President and Vice Chair from Nebraska, Jane Klipp.
Thank you, Chair Martin. It is an honor to be with all of you. You are getting a handout from some of our staff of the ASDC on a new project that we're rolling out that I will talk about here in a second, but let me just set this up. We just got finished with SWOT analysis of all 57 state parties, so that's all of our states, our territories, and Dems abroad. Those will be headed to Chair Martin for his Christmas and New Year's reading. Merry Christmas, Chair Martin. I'm sorry. Then the states will get those reports, and then they will get a $10,000 planning grant. They will be required to write a 4-year strategic plan to improve their party. Even the strongest of state parties have things to improve. So they will be working with the DNC and the ASDC to improve their state. That is only because of Chair Martin's strong leadership and the strength that he handed the ASDC to me. Just a few years ago, state parties were only getting $2,500 every month from the DNC. Now they are getting, the red states, $22,500 a month. Blue and purple states are getting $18,500 a month. This is historic investments. That means the reddest of red states, like a North Dakota, can afford an office. They can afford at least 3 staff members, so then they can focus on raising money to build a strong state party to then elect Democrats. Which brings me to this new project that we have rolled out this week here called the 5 Pillars of Change. We went to Act Blue, and we're now approaching other donors as well. We have an initial investment of $1 million. State parties can apply for grants anywhere from $25,000 to up to $100,000. This will be a yearly investment from Act Blue. They have to fall into one of these 5 buckets: professionalizing and stabilizing state party leadership, reaching voters with core programs that turn out Democrats for the entire ticket, developing sustainable grassroots donor programs, driving comms that build the party's brand and meet voters where they're at, or investing in sustainable internal party infrastructure to build a true coalition party. So right now in our party infrastructure, we only have 14 paid party chairs in our structure. The rest of us are volunteers, including myself, and we only have 29 parties that have 4-year term party chairs. So we have a lot of infrastructure things that we need to change. You know, and to Chair Applebaum's point, we don't have a lot of connective tissue between our national infrastructure of our amazing caucuses and councils and what our states are doing. That's some of the things that we need to do, or like what Vice Chair Blanco said, that's one of the things that state parties can apply for. We need to improve Latino communications on vote-by-mail applications, on materials at the doors in different languages of what voters are. So these are the things that we know we need to improve at the state party level. That's where we win elections, and we want to do right by voters, and that's what these grant programs are all about. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. ASDC President Jane Klebb. Next up is going to be our Vice Chair for Civic Engagement and Voter Protection, Raina Walters-Morgan.
Good morning. Thank you. Democrats have overperformed in elections at every level in 2025, and we absolutely have to be proud of that. Everyone in this room stepped up to do the work. But let me be the person to blow your mind for just one moment. Texas and North Carolina have primaries on March 3rd. That means early voting starts in less than 2 months, February 12th in North Carolina and February 17th in Texas. So take some time over the holidays. We should be proud of the work that we've done, rejuvenate and rest, but we have got to hit the ground running in January. Republicans are running scared. We gave them a shellacking up and down the ballot, and they are going to work and go into overdrive to try and suppress the vote. As a matter of fact, they're already starting these efforts. They are targeting people of color. They're targeting students. In North Carolina, the Guilford County Board of Elections recently voted to remove the polling location from North Carolina A&T State University. That is the largest HBCU in the country. Other counties did similar measures in North Carolina. There were at least 2 other colleges that we know of where the county boards voted to remove the polling locations on those campuses. That's just in North Carolina, but trust and believe these efforts are coordinated. They are getting their directives from above, and you will see these efforts in your states. So now is a time to ramp up and expand our voter protection efforts. Voter protection programs are often the last things that people think about. Unfortunately, sometimes the resources are the last resources to be allocated. But let me just say that the most successful programs, the days that are the most successful, are the election days that are quiet and the ones that are boring. That's because the professionals have identified the potential threats and worked to mitigate the impact of those threats before they negatively impact voters. They advocated for fair and accessible polling locations before the decisions were made to remove them. And they are in the room advocating for voting rights before decisions are finalized. Many may not know this, but 2020 was the first year that we ran a coordinated presidential preference primary voter protection program, and we received so much flack for it. People said things like, voter suppression doesn't happen in Democratic primaries. Well, we know that that's not true. It was an uphill battle, but we eventually got people on board. We eventually had people buy into the vision that we were selling, which was voter protection has to be a year-round organizing, advocacy, and education effort. And what we did was we saw in the primaries that how changes in the law were impacting voters. We got to see the suppressive efforts and make efforts to fix things before they became a problem in November. These are the types of things that you can do when you have people on the ground doing the work ahead of time. And giving your team a practice run before November is never, ever a bad thing. So I want to implore everyone in this room, please don't mistake the absence of a visible issue as a reduced need. We need to be proactive. We need to start now. We need to build our teams. Every organization in this room can build a scalable voter protection program. We've got the resources. The DNC has the resources to help you do that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We can be helpful. And of course, thank you to the chair, thank you to the staff that we have that is doing this work. And we're going to win in November. It's going to be hard. We're going to have to fight every step of the way, but we will be successful, especially if we start planning now. Thank you.
Thank you, Raina. Last but certainly not least in our alphabetical order is our great secretary, Jason Ray.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's so great to serve with you and all of these officers. Since our last meeting in Minneapolis, we've been busy planning for this meeting and actually getting ahead in it, getting our next meeting set and scheduled, which I know is something that we've heard from members. But it's been great actually to get out on the road and get to be with many of you, knocking on doors, helping elect Democrats up and down the ballot this fall. And I'm excited to hopefully get to do that with many more of you in 2026 and beyond. But none of this work, this meeting, none of the work that our office does to support our DNC members would be possible without the tremendous team that we have in the Office of Secretary and Party Affairs. So I just want to call out the team who really works around the clock to be that resource. So let's just give the team an OSPA, as we call it, a round of applause. But thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and know that our office is dedicated to continue being that resource for all of you so that we can continue to win.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Before we move on, I do want to acknowledge the new members of our DNC Executive Committee who are joining us today. Thanks to this committee and, of course, the DNC membership as a whole, we approved a number of reforms at our last meeting in Minneapolis to expand the membership of our committees, to bring new voices in, to make sure that our bodies are as inclusive of our party as possible. I just wanted to introduce those members. Some of them are here with us today, some are not. I want to start with Zayed Kadir, the president of the High School Democrats of America. Thank you, Zayed. Cisco Aguilar, the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State president, who was with us yesterday. Welcome, Cisco. Austin Davis, Lieutenant Governor in Pennsylvania, who's the president of the Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association. Thank you, Austin. Deborah Goldberg from the Democratic State Treasurers Association. And Kwame Raoul from the Democratic Attorney General's Association, of course, all of them. And last but not least, I saved him for last because he doesn't need really any introduction, is my predecessor and our great chairman, Jamie Harrison, right over there. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. His wife, Marie, is very mad at me. She thought he was going to be done with all this DNC stuff, and I just pulled him right back in. It's like the mafia. You can never quite get out. So there you go. Thank you, Jamie. So thank you very much, and welcome to all the new members. Look, at this point, we do have some business before we adjourn. And by adjourn, we're going to adjourn the formal portion of this work and then move into a members-only briefing that allows us to have some conversations about some other matters. So at this point, as you know, the history about the Ombudsman's committee appointment. Some of you know it, some of you don't, but for those of you who are unfamiliar, after the Unity Reform Commission made its report, the DNC amended its bylaws to require the formation of an Ombudsman committee. It's technically a subcommittee, and it's made up of the co-chairs of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, the chairs of the regional caucuses, and additional members nominated by the chairman. Their sole responsibility is to review any potential rules violations by elected or appointed officers of the DNC and to file a report with the executive committee. Now, clearly, in a perfect world, this is a committee that would never meet, right? But its responsibility, of course, is real, and we must form it. And so to that end, I have nominated the following individuals from the executive committee to serve on this Ombudsman committee: Keith Ellison, Clara Pratt, Ron Ramirez, Yvonne Reeves-Chong, Hilda Solis, Sinfronia Thompson, and John Verdejo. Is there a motion to ratify these appointments? It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you all. The ayes have it. And thank you to all of these members for serving on a committee that we all hope will never meet. So the last business item we have is dispensing of our fourth meeting. Our bylaws require that the executive committee meets 4 times per year unless the committee votes to dispense of the fourth meeting. As this is our third meeting, I would entertain a motion to dispense of that fourth meeting unless you all want to meet over the holidays. Is there a motion? Is there a second? All those in favor? Actually, before we get to that, is there any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor of dispensing with the fourth meeting this year of the executive committee, say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you all very much. And thank you all for coming to this official meeting. After Secretary Ray makes announcements, as I mentioned, as we move to adjourn this portion, I would like the executive committee members, DNC members in the room, and executive directors to remain seated for a members-only briefing. Secretary Ray, at this time, do you have any updates to share with the Executive Committee?
Just as we mentioned yesterday, our next full meeting of the DNC will be April 9th to 11th in New Orleans. I know folks have been excited about that and have been texting and emailing asking for hotel links and to start booking. All of that info will come to you after the new year, so be patient as we get ready for that. But those are the major announcements, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And before conclude, oh, yes.
Mr. Chairman, Luis Heredia from the DNC Hispanic Caucus Chair. I do want to meet the rage that Vice Chairman Kayanta mentioned on the losing health care for $24 million, but I also want to remind this body that there are potentially 600,000 families that have been deported or removed by this administration. And the weight of reminding ourselves that households during this holiday season will be missing people. The trauma, the anger that some of those family members might be experiencing, anger at this Democratic Party for its failure to address a correction that we needed to address a long time ago and have failed to do so. But maybe it's the Catholic in me that if I recall my sins, I remember my faith and I remember the resolve that I have to do better. But I have to remind this body that there are potentially up to, if not more, 600,000 families that are missing a family member in their household around a very important gathering around this season. So if we are not angering at a very early age, I reminded when I was I came to California as a member of Union Summer with an AFL-CIO organizing. I got time to spend with the United Farm Workers and SEIU here in LA, and I learned a very important organizing tactic called cold anger, where it is anger, not hot anger, where it's rage that has not have a purpose, but an anger that has a why. And you mentioned that, and I got to remind ourselves every single time that we have to always look at that why. And what can this body do? As you are influencing the hiring of campaign workers, state party staff, you could hire family members that are impacted. You could hire immigrants that have no connection to a Democratic Party, but it's because of what you recruit and the young people that you will recruit to be a part of the Democratic. It's going to take work from all of us because a lot of individuals are not prone to understanding our political process, but you can recruit these individuals to be a part of the battle in the front lines. And what can you do in the next year is be a voice for these individuals to be a part of the fight that has a real purpose, and it gives them the motivation as we move on to few their elections. So I challenge this body, I challenge the folks in this room to do better, and the way that we combat that is bringing those people to the front line. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. You know, I just want to remark on something that really made my heart sink yesterday, as Congresswoman Sidney Colager-Dove said when she mentioned that she has been searching for 2 months now for one of her constituents who has been disappeared. Their family has not seen their family member for 2 months with no sense of whether or not that person is still in this country, whether or not this person is still alive, whether or not their family member is well. This is, again, the human component of what's happening around this country, not just here in LA, but in all parts of this country with these terrible ICE raids that are terrorizing communities and disappearing people and breaking up families and destroying communities. And I appreciate you, Luis. We all have a responsibility to hold our party and our elected officials not only to our values, but to account in this moment. What we're seeing in this country is beyond reprehensible, and we have to stand up and continue to call it out. So thank you, Luis, for always doing that. With that,
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Virgie, yep.
I also wish that our party could condemn this president for calling countries of color shithole countries and constantly berating our African-American congresswoman from your state. I would hope that we will hear some more loud voices in condemning this president for making those remarks, because it is apprehensible for him to be our president. And it would be, if we could have something in reference publicly to refer to him and condemning him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vergy. I appreciate that. And at this point, oh, yes.
If I
Mayor.
could, Brian Kennedy, President of Democratic Municipal Officials, I just wanted to lift up some of the comments that were made about the rage and the anger that we fear, or that we're facing right now, and to remind people that, you know, when we hear all these complaints about the cost of like property taxes and the things that we pay in our cities, it's our cities that have actually had to step in at numerous times during this administration. You know, during the government shutdown, it was our schools that were making sure that kids were being fed when they weren't getting SNAP benefits. It was our churches, our synagogues, and our soup kitchens that were making sure that families' needs were met. And I know that as we go into a new year in which millions of people are probably going to opt out of a healthcare system they can no longer afford, it's going to be our health departments and our free clinics that are going to be stepping in and meeting those needs. And so we need to remember that as we hear of these concerns in our communities, remember to continually support our local elected officials, our cities, our school boards, because they are going to be the ones that are stepping in and trying to meet the needs of people when the federal government fails to do so.
Thank you, Mayor. Christine.
Not to pile on what Luis started, but I just wanted to note I'm wearing an orange pin today. Tomorrow is the Tragiversity of Sandy Hook. You had mentioned, I was thinking about this walking over, we didn't even really have a DNC meeting last time because of the tragedy in Minnesota, and there was another mass shooting yesterday. So I think in addition to the family members who are missing, the family members who have been deported, I think it's also just incumbent on us again to remember the fight we have against the gun industry. And I'm proud of the steps that the party has taken to reject not only gun money, but the trade association money that was funded by the gun industry. And also just to remember that we have so many families who have that empty chair at the table, some tragically for the first time as Hanukkah begins tomorrow night and Christmas is coming. So just thinking also about our friends who have family members who were killed by gun violence.
Thank you, Christine. What's that? Okay, I don't see anyone else right now, but thank you all for lifting all of those important reminders up at this moment. Before concluding this meeting, I would like to thank, of course, all of the DNC staff for all of their hard work throughout the week in making this meeting happen. I also want to thank the wonderful Union Hotel staff for their hospitality, of course, and our court reporter for making sure we have a permanent record. So with no other business before us today, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn the official business part of this meeting. Is there a motion? Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the meeting is now adjourned. I want to thank you all for a great meeting. Just a reminder for all of you to stick around because the next few items of business are really important conversations and briefings. And I'm going to pass I'm going to gavel down here real quick. The meeting is adjourned. And I'm going to pass the mic to Roger, who is going to make a quick reminder here.